And ChatGPT or using something else like that to plan everything out in advance takes away that issue where you don't have to jump in your creative brain. You just type in a prompt and then you get everything served to you. And if you don't like it, you say, hey, I don't like this, this, and this. Please redo it. I say, please. I talk nicely to my ChatGPT.
I'm always saying, please, thank you.
Welcome to the very first rebranded episode of the I'm a Car Chick podcast. You know it's Shasta Haddock here. I am so excited to finally be back with you. This is going to be my first recording after NADA. So I'm sure you guys have been listening to all of those NADA episodes and enjoying those guests and what they had to say. But I'm so excited to bring you some new content and new guests. Today, I have Sarah Ciociola of PCG Digital. Hello.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be the first one on this new rebrand.
Me too. Thank you so much for coming on. We talked a little bit before recording and I got to learn quite a bit about you, but I want you to do a little bit of an intro for our guests who may not know you.
Yeah, sure. So like you mentioned, my name's Sarah Ciociola. I am currently the Vice President of Paid Media at PCG Digital. I've been with PCG for about 6.5 years, started in the social media team, kind of worked my way more into paid search and social media as the agency kind of recognized that we're more of a paid media team, not just paid search and, paid social and silo. And now I oversee both teams. I also travel across the country and speak at a lot of automotive events like Digital Dealer, 20 groups, that kind of thing. So you may have seen me before.
Yes. And PCG has been around for a long time as well. You said 15 years?
Yeah.
That's a long time for a company in automotive nowadays. Like it's a lot fizzle out, especially media companies. So you said that you started on the social media team and have worked your way up from there. What would you say that you learned while you were on the social media team that is most useful to you now on the full paid media side?
So I think the impact that paid social media will have on the paid search side of things. I think one of the biggest takeaways that I try to give to any dealer that I speak to, because, all dealers, they're just obsessed with leads. And when I say leads, I just mean form fills, right? Like sometimes it's not even phone calls or chats or texts. It's simply a form fill. A lot of dealers still aren't understanding in 2025 the impact that their whole paid media mix has on those lead submissions. So even though maybe one campaign or a few campaigns every single month aren't driving you form submissions, they are attributing to the form submissions that are being generated maybe through other campaigns. The whole idea that you have to see something dozens and dozens of times, especially for something as big as like a car buy, and something as big of a purchase like that, you really have to be in front of people so much more than you even had to be in front of people 6.5 years ago when I was inside these social media accounts as the social media specialist. And I think that's just evolving to be, even more technical and advanced than it was.
It is. And it's funny, one of the more recent episodes that I've done, we were talking about streaming ads and the effect that those have. And the guest that I had was talking about how she saw this ad. I think she was watching Hulu, but it was for Chick-fil-A and a crispy chicken sandwich. And, she didn't go to the website or fill anything out or go to their Facebook page or take any sort of digital action. But the next day when she was out driving with her kids going to get some food, she immediately thought to go to Chick-fil-A and get a crispy chicken sandwich because it was top of mind. And, Chick-fil-A may never be able to track that conversion as, hey, we got a sale off of running the streaming ad. And it's so important that we all recognize top of mind awareness may not come with an immediate ROI that you can track. It's probably one of the more important things that you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think building brand awareness for automotive dealers now that their car buyer segments are so much younger, like younger millennials, Generation Z, even the generation after them, they know that they have a million options to go buy a car from a million different places. So why should they trust you? Or maybe older generations of car buyers really only are concerned about the inventory. And at the end of the day, yes, you're purchasing inventory, right? You're purchasing the car. But younger generations of car buyers care a lot more about what your dealership stands for. Can they relate to you? Is your content engaging? Are you engaging with them that's not gimmicky and sales centric? If you can do that on a consistent basis, we will have so much more long-term success than those dealers who are just focused on leads. If somebody's shoving a form in my face every single day and I'm trying to buy a car, I'm going to either opt out of receiving their ads or I'm going to honestly block them because that's not a good, that's not flowing with any of my news feeds.
Yeah, you have to earn the right to my information.
Exactly. And nobody wants you to call them 100 times, email them 50 times, text them. They'll reach out to you when they're ready to purchase or ask you a question.
Right. So I want to backtrack a little bit. And you were talking about how dealerships need to be engaging and showing them, essentially showing customers the why buy. What would you say is the most effective method of doing that right now in 2025? Did you know that there's a monthly newsletter where you can keep in touch with everything the I'm a Car Chick podcast is up to? There is. Check out the show notes below. And you can also follow us on all social media and stay in tune with whatever we're up to.
I would definitely say short form video and light and engaging short form video. So what's really important, again, is earning the trust of your market. And you do that through educational content, like you mentioned. So when should I get my oil changed? When should I be rotating my tires? If there's a new model out, show me some of the features. Why would it be important to me? Am I, a young person in college, or am I about to be a mom, or am I about to be a grandmother? Did I just buy a house? Like thinking about all of these things and really creating video and content that's geared towards different markets of people will help them trust you because they're doing a lot of research. And like I said, even now in 2025 and in this crazy kind of economy, right? Like buying a car is a huge purchase for anybody. Nobody's just going on the lot, test driving a few vehicles and driving away with one. This is something that they have to talk to their families about, their friends about, go on, every website, look at every model, every video. So making sure you're there for every single one of those interactions is going to be very important.
Well, and I think that, that really hit the nail on the head. But when I think about when I'm ready to buy something, especially something larger, I'm checking that dealership's website or, whoever the business is, I'm checking their website, I'm checking their social media accounts, I'm checking their reviews. I want to see what kind of people they are, if they're going to take care of the business that I'm giving them, or if they're just going to, throw it in the pile and then work the next one that comes along. And that's so important because it seems like nowadays, kind of what you said, we're having to work a lot harder for the money that we're getting. And that means that we've got to take care of that money as consumers. And so we're wanting to make sure that we can trust businesses. And I saw a report the other day, and I wish I could remember the numbers on it. It was something along the lines of why people are doing business with the dealerships that they are. And I think it was like over 55% of it was because of customer experience, and it's no longer brand loyalty like it used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, word of mouth is the most impactful kind of advertising out there. So what's secondary to that? That's video, right? Showcasing, hey, this is me. I'm the general sales manager, or I'm in charge of the service center. And when you get your car serviced with me, here's where you can plug in your phone. Here's the free Wi-Fi. Here's the coffee bar. It should be ready in 30 minutes. Like, here's your whole experience. I'm going to show this to you in advance so you feel comfortable coming in to service with me, or you feel comfortable coming in for a test drive. Here's what that experience is going to look like. I think that speaks volumes compared to just throwing incentives down people's throats, especially incentives that are from the OEMs that you're just pulling from a marketing portal and throwing up and thinking that's going to drive you leads. It's not. And maybe these videos that I'm discussing aren't either, but they're going to drive long-term success and, like we keep saying, trust within the dealership.
Yeah. And that trust is so important. If I'm a dealership and I'm thinking about, okay, I really want to start doing some short form video content, such as TikTok or Facebook Reels, Instagram, where would you recommend that I start? Whether it's finding the person in the dealership or, start with a content plan, where would you say that they should probably get their beginning at? This episode is brought to you by Epic BDC, your number one outsourced BDC solution. Check out more about Epic BDC by clicking the link in the show notes or visiting epicbdc.com.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Is start with your team in the dealership. And like we were kind of discussing before, all you have to do is have an iPhone, or not even an iPhone. You just have to have a phone with a camera on it, right? And just be able to shoot, video of your sales process, or like I said, of the service department, or of what the outside of, a new model looks like, the inside of a new model, and use AI for content generation ideas. I mean, I do that. My team does that. Everybody around me in other industries does that. ChatGPT can be your best friend. It's not going to do your job for you, but if you throw into ChatGPT 30 content ideas for a car dealership that's focused on service over the next 30 days, they're going to give you some great ideas, and you take it and you run with it. You don't have to sit there for a whole hour and think, okay, I need 30 content ideas for the next 30 days. Like, we have developed, we have moved on. This is 2025. Utilize the tools that are available to you.
And that's so smart. And it's funny because I do the exact same thing. Like I realized the other day, like I'm getting dry on some content that I need to post, and I got to come up with some ideas. And I just threw it into ChatGPT and was like, hey, this is, information about me, which I use it all the time for different marketing stuff. So it already knows me, it knows my company. And so as I threw it in there, I'm like, hey, help me out with some social media posts here. And it'll drum them right out for you. You tell it what you want and it'll do it for you.
Yeah, it's similar to, I think, like millennials and other people being like asking a question, and it's like, just Google it. And you're just sitting there pondering the question. I'm like, oh yeah, I have a phone. I have every question's answer available to me on the entire planet, but I'm just sitting there like wondering what the answer is. Like, that's how we don't think to use AI right away. But if you start to utilize those tools more, like what you said, it'll make your life 10 times easier. And you can focus on the things that AI can't do for you, which is actually shoot the content.
Yeah. We talk a lot. So we recently developed the Social Grenade Company, which is the app for salespeople to be posting to social media. And when we address that problem of, why aren't they already doing this? And it's like they're in their analytical brain all day long thinking about how many more cars they have to sell, how many more customers they have to call, how many ups they have to take, all of the things. And so to switch from analytical to creative brain, we know that that's a problem. And ChatGPT or using something else like that to plan everything out in advance takes away that issue, where you don't have to jump in your creative brain. You just type in a prompt and then you get everything served to you. And if you don't like it, you say, hey, I don't like this, this, and this, please redo it. I say, I talk nicely to my chat.
I'm always saying, please, thank you.
But we know that that's an issue. And so we want to help those, those salespeople, those managers, those general managers to be able to overcome that and get back into that analytical brain that they need to do their job, but also still have the portion out there that's going to get them the customers. Because we know where we spend the majority of our time. Like when my family's at home, they're all scrolling on their phone, either playing games or scrolling TikTok. And so I would say it's probably the same for the most of Americans, whether it's Facebook or TikTok or Instagram. Are you popping up in their feeds?
Yeah, absolutely. Last time I checked, there was an average of 26 digital touch points that it takes before somebody even interacts with the dealership online. And I can assure you it's probably even more than that. When I look at some of my clients' Clarivoy click trail reports, there's some people that have 100, 150 digital touch points all across the dealer's media mix before they engage with them, nevertheless, before they submit a lead form with them. So even if you're not seeing, all of the leads that you want to see in January, all of that advertising that you're running in January can very well be attributed to leads that you're seeing in March, April, and May. Because like we said earlier, these are long-term, big ticket purchases. If you see an ad on the 1st, I always like to say this, if you see an ad on the 1st, you're not buying that car on the 30th. But that's how we operate in the automotive world in our marketing. Well, I didn't sell, all these cars from these leads that I generated in 30 days. It's like, well, why would you? That's not the length of the average car buyer. So that's something to keep in mind too.
So we've talked a lot about staying top of mind. I want to talk about how paid media plays a piece in that. And you say that there's so many touch points, and the beautiful thing is we can track all of that. How do those go hand in hand?
Yeah. So when I discuss paid media, I like to think of, TikTok, Meta, so Facebook, Instagram, Microsoft, Google advertising. I mean, if you're doing Pinterest, if you're on Snapchat, like all of these fun things, they all interact in tandem because at any point somebody is on all of these platforms. So making sure, exactly like your point before, you are where everybody is. And that's a very scary thing for dealers to kind of digest. Like, okay, so you're telling me I have to be everywhere all of the time. And I'm kind of saying you do, but in a very tactical way. And that's where your dealer's data really comes into play, is like where I'm not telling you to throw spaghetti at the wall all day on all of these platforms. I'm telling you to know how to use your data in a very strategic way. So when you are present on all of these platforms that I'm telling you to be present on, it's in a very tactical way. So you're not just wasting your money. You're targeting very specific people at a specific point of their car buying journey. I think that's very important. And that often gets lost because all dealers here will, okay, well, she just wants me to spend 50 grand a month, 100 grand a month. And I'm like, maybe I am, maybe I'm not, but it's really about how you're utilizing your data while you're spending that money.
Yeah. So say that, a dealer, is just wanting to start up with some digital spend, and their total budget's a little bit on the smaller side. Maybe it's $5,000. Would you recommend that they put all that $5,000 in one place, or split that up amongst different avenues?
I would recommend that they split it up into two different places. One, branding, because I think branding is the most important, one of the most important pieces of your digital strategy, and you can run that across social, you can run that across paid search. I think it's important to have branding on both places, but also dynamic inventory advertising. I think that's super important to, showcase your inventory to people that are looking for specific inventory. The reason that I jump over incentives and, maybe some traffic-based advertising when dealers have smaller budgets is because, okay, I know I can hit them at the top, and then I know that all of that data can be retargeted to my dynamic ads. Yes, all of those campaign types in the middle are important, and I would love for you to run them. But if I had an option to slash some, I would make sure, like I said, you're running those branding campaigns, you're getting as much data into your your pixels or your tracking scripts as possible, and then we're retargeting them as tactfully as possible through dynamic advertising.
What would you say is the number one thing that dealers, or maybe just business owners in general, are missing when it comes to tracking their ads?
So I think, to my point earlier, attribution is such a long-term game in automotive. We're not e-commerce, right? Like, I'm not looking on Amazon and seeing a shirt, and 10 seconds later, all of a sudden I bought it, which is what I do all the time. I'm very carefully researching, and I'm looking, like you said, word of mouth. I'm looking at reviews. I'm looking at videos. I'm looking at the website. I'm looking at multiple websites. I'm willing to travel for a better deal or a better experience. There's so much competition. I think what dealers fail to realize in terms of attribution is that, like I said earlier, okay, maybe you're running a display campaign on Google and that's not driving you any leads from that campaign, but somebody saw that display campaign on Google, then they were on their Facebook and they saw your branding campaign, then they were on your Instagram and they saw one of your reels, then that reel was about one of your new models on your lot from your salesperson, so they thought, oh my God, I'm interested in that 2025 Kia. Now I'm going to Google 2025 Kia, and look, my VLAs come up and I convert on that VLA. But look how many other touch points that person had to see from your digital advertising to get to convert on that VLA. That's what dealers miss. They're looking at every campaign in silo, and it has to be big picture.
Mm-hmm. And that it takes the right company or the right person handling the marketing to be able to tie that all together and show, all of those different touch points and the customer journey, because it starts so long before they ever, even make contact with a salesperson or step foot on the lot. We have so much that goes into it. I mean, just think about, the last time you bought something, and, something will say over $1,000, and how long it took you to get to that point. Odds are you didn't impulse buy it. You either researched it or, saw an ad for it and you're like, oh, that's interesting. I'm curious about this now. And, either asked around your friends, or if it's something for your home, asked in your local Facebook group, hey, have any of you tried XYZ? And so even on things like that, we take time to slow down and think about it. So when we're thinking of something that's more than $20,000, people are going to put in the work to make sure that they're spending their money in the right place. This episode is brought to you by SCP Agency, your one-stop shop for organic social media. Check them out by clicking the link in the show notes or visit scpagency.com.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you're kind of in the weeds with it, whether you're inside the dealership or at the agency, you can kind of forget to like take a step back and take that 10,000-foot view and be like, okay, if I was a car buyer and I'm looking to buy a car, what would my experience look like? How would I interact with this dealership online? Sometimes all it takes is like, let's take a deep breath here and let's look at that 10,000-foot view and recognize that we are, delivering these ads to real people. How are real people interacting with digital advertising? I think that really helps and makes all the difference.
Well, and I think about, and I'm not even somebody who does advertising anymore, but I think about when I'm on, TikTok or Facebook Reels, and I can tell when something's an ad really quickly, just the way that it pops up. And a lot of times if it's something I know I don't want, I'll just scroll right past it. And so I think that when we look at the short form video content that goes along with having ads is making sure that you're either educating, entertaining, engaging your audience with something like Sarah was saying, if that's showing them a new vehicle you got, introducing them to your service department. It does not have to all be an advertisement for the fact that you sell cars.
Yeah. And also, what dealers tend to miss too is the retention, the loyalty piece of a lot of this digital space. We get somebody to convert and then we're like kicking them to the curb saying, see you later. There's a whole other experience that dealers need to give to these shoppers for them to want to come back and service with you, for them to want to have their daughter buy, their first car with you, or to buy another car with you when their lease is up. Like all of these things, you can't just have them convert and then kick them to the curb. You have to have retention-based strategies in all of your digital marketing, loyalty-based strategies in all of your marketing, traditional or digital. And that's really lost right now in the automotive space. It's rarely talked about. But what we like to really encourage dealers at PCG is to approach your digital marketing using a life cycle marketing approach where we're not really talking about the funnel anymore, right? That's kind of in the past. We're really talking about a full life cycle marketing experience that never, ever ends. And that goes back to, okay, do you have a CDP or a CRM or a DMS that's allowing you to segment data to utilize that kind of strategy properly?
That is a huge conversation. All of the different ways that you can, maintain life cycle of a customer, but specifically when in regards to paid media, where would you start?
In terms of implementing life cycle marketing?
Yeah. So say that it was that example you gave, someone buys a car and then, for service retention or retention for their family member who's wanting to purchase, do we start when we're creating these ads to continue to follow up with them afterwards? Is there a different process we need to set them up with? Like if I'm a dealer and I don't know much about marketing, I don't know where to start with that. But no, I
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you kind of want to take every phase of the life cycle marketing loop and say, okay, what does my strategy look like in every phase? What does my strategy look like in the awareness phase, the engagement phase, the consideration phase, conversion, retention, loyalty phases? What can this digital agency do for me within that strategy? What do I need to maybe reach out to my email marketing company to implement? Maybe there's some traditional, maybe they're recommending for me to get involved in more community engagement. Can there be somebody in-house to do that? Nobody can really do it all, but we can all do it all together. So making sure that you are working with agencies that are a true extension of your marketing team and willing to work with your other vendors is going to be crucial to implement that strategy. You cannot do it if all of your vendors are working in silo, which is another huge issue, as you know, in the automotive space. Rarely do we all work together or have the opportunity to speak to each other.
I'll tell you, one of the most interesting dealerships that I've ever worked with had a weekly call with every single person who touched their marketing, whether that was vendors or somebody in the dealership, a weekly call every single week where everybody came together. We discussed, what ads are running, what sale is going to be happening at the dealership. Are we bringing in food trucks this weekend? All of these things so that every single person was on the same page. And most importantly, a thing that gets forgotten a lot of times is the lead of the BDC was on those calls too. And making sure that, as these people are talking to customers, you can say, hey, when you come in for your appointment on Saturday, don't eat lunch before you get here. We're going to have food trucks and we'll give you free food, things like that. And so making sure that even your BDC and your sales teams are aware of what marketing you have going on. Because if someone calls into the dealership and says something about, hey, are you giving away free food this weekend? And you're like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Why would you not say yes? Either way, I'll find a way to get you free food. But
right. And it's almost like a camaraderie thing, right?
Yeah.
Like get excited about all of the cool stuff that we're doing and why you want to work at this dealership. Like look at all of this fun community involvement, all this cool marketing we have going on and all of the cool messaging that we can prep you with when you're talking to customers. Like it's really just I feel like a morale thing too, if nothing else.
Mm-hmm. I think that's probably like if you take away, 3 good takeaways here, I'd say one of them has to be get all of your marketing vendors on a call for sure.
Yeah.
Whether, you have someone doing marketing in-house or you're using somebody for paid media, maybe you're using PCG, get all of them on a call once a week or even, once every other week and make sure that everybody is rowing in the same direction and that you're not doubling up on efforts somewhere and that everybody is working in their area of expertise. You've made it this far. And I have to say thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to rate the show, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, and of course on all social media channels. Light it up.
Yeah, there's so many times where at, PCG, whether it's me or one of our specialists, will just be like, hey, let me just get your website provider's information. Like, let me just talk to them. Like, for you to be the middleman of communication, like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, let me just talk to them and it's a quick email and it's a quick solution. Or let me just talk to your email marketing person and let me just, lay something out because sometimes it's so technical to get somebody. Maybe you're not working with a marketing person in-house, right? Maybe it's the GM or somebody else are like, I don't even know half the time what you're saying. I don't know what these acronyms mean. I don't know what this terminology means. Like, just give me the email. I'll take care of it. That's what it means to be an extension of your marketing team, right? Not just to funnel information to somebody and make sure that they get it to the right place.
Yeah. And it can always be, I'll make sure to copy you on that email when I send it over or,
Right.
Make sure that you stay in the communication loop. But when you have 2 people who can speak the same language, you and the other marketing provider, it can save a whole lot of time with the back and forth of, I don't know what this means. Do you know what this means?
Yeah. And everybody getting frustrated when there's no reason to. Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's so smart. I think, like I said, the takeaways from this are number 1, get your marketing team on a call with each other, not just you, but with each other, everybody at the same time. And it's non-negotiable. If, your normal rep can't make it, make sure somebody else, another representative of that company is there. I think number 2 is you've got to start short form video content. If you're not already doing it, you have to start
absolutely.
Make a plan for it. And then third, I would almost even say, do an analysis of your paid media, reach out to Sarah and see what else you can be doing to improve that.
Yeah. Dissect your media mix, see what's working, see what's not. Super important. Yep.
What would you say is the best way to reach out to you if somebody wants to get in touch with you, Sarah, and, talk about paid media or what they can be doing better?
Yeah. So myself and PCG are very active on LinkedIn. So I encourage you to shoot me a connect and you can always shoot me a message on there. And then through there, I can give you my PCG email and we can start chatting.
Perfect. What is one thing that you would give as a piece of advice to somebody just fresh to the automotive industry, to help set them up for success?
Be a sponge. Just be a sponge. There is so many avenues and so many departments and things to learn every single day. I'm like, what is that acronym? What does that mean? And I've been in it for, 6, almost 7 years, right? And even people who have been in the industry for 20 years, sometimes you're asking me what things mean. You're never stopped learning. And I think if you're starting in the auto space, maybe in the BDC or on a social media team or as a content person, learn about the BDC, learn about what CRM the dealer's using, learn about CDPs, learn about data management, learn about paid search, everything. Learn everything because the more well-rounded you can be in the automotive space, the better you can work with dealers and the more that they'll trust you to work with them. I think that's probably my biggest piece of advice.
100%. You can't sit around and wait for somebody to want to teach you something because that day will never come. So it's be on you. Take it all in and then see what else you can learn from. Find YouTube videos, find podcasts, find people who are doing free seminars. And do everything you can to take in as much as you can, because at the end of the day, that only makes you more valuable, whether to your current employer or your next one.
Exactly. Yep.
For sure. Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us today. This was a really good conversation and one that I think that dealers definitely need to hear. And they're actually ready to hear this year, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. I really hope so. I think 2025 may be our year, but I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Guys, be sure to follow PCG all over social media. Find Sarah, follow her, and connect with her. Ask her all the questions. I promise you she's got all the answers. Until next time, light it up.